Welcome to the latest episode of Honest Reviews. Today I'm going to be talking about the Shadow Team 60 skate from USD. Full disclosure, Powerslide actually sent these to me for free. I asked for a pair because I've been a huge Shadow fan over the years, particularly Dustin Latimer, Chris Farmer and Jeff Stockwell. Mainly Jeff Stockwell. I'm the hugest Jeff Stockwell fan. And I used to ride these back in the early 2010s, so I just wanted to skate a pair again and see if I felt any differently about them now that quite a lot of time has passed and my tastes in skates have changed, and obviously technology and trends have moved on, and wanted to see the kind of differences that they've made to the skate, and there have been quite a few differences. It used to have a one-piece cuff that came on the original Dustin Latimer, and over time it has changed. It is now a hinged cuff. It used to come with two straps that you would tighten. Pretty sure it was two Velcro straps, and now that's been replaced by a buckle. And it's also got a very different sole plate to the one that originally came on it. It used to have a three-piece sole plate that didn't have a backslide groove. Now it's a one-piece one that very much does. And also, it no longer comes with foot wraps anymore. Instead of having shoes that kind of look like walking shoes a little bit, they now come with a walkable liner. And they've also made some other changes, like protecting the front, I think we would call this the toe strap, a little bit more with some extra plastic, and some other little kind of micro changes over the years just to hopefully make the skate perform better. But all in all, it's essentially still the same idea. It's got this very much snowboard binding look that's clamping in a shoe with the sole plate underneath. First impressions when I got them out the box was I wasn't overly a fan of how they look, but then Shadows have never been the best looking skate. They have always looked a little bit odd. It looks like something that a mad scientist would come up with in their garage and then hand it to a skater, and the skater would be like, I don't know if I really want to try that. It looks like it's going to snap every bone in my body. But I will say that since Shadow changed from Shadow with an X to Shadow with an S, this is one of the better looking models. Some of them have not been that great. In particular, the Eugen Ennen one looks like the kind of thing that you would wear to a fetish nightclub. In fact, I'm surprised that it didn't come with a gimp mask as an accessory, because that thing looked all kinds of S&M. The second thing I noticed about this skate is it is heavy. It is really heavy. I do not remember Shadows being this heavy, but then perhaps I'm looking back at it with rose-tinted glasses. This is by far the heaviest boot only in USD's aggressive range. It's heavier than the Carbon, obviously, heavier than the Aeon, heavier than the Sway, even heavier than the Carbon Free. In fact, this is round about the same weight as a Rossi's Fifth Element or the Rossi's skinned skates, like the Bobby Spazov recent ones, and it's not that much lighter than the Rollerblade Blank skate boot only. So this is on the heavy side, and it's definitely something to consider if you're thinking about buying this skate. To be honest, I'm kind of surprised that Powerslide brought this back. I do remember it didn't sell very well, and they had a lot of issues with parts breaking, not being able to get new parts, members of the pro team getting frustrated about not being able to get replacement bits for their skates or even replacement skates. And when they killed it, I genuinely thought this wasn't coming back, so it was quite interesting when they did decide to bring it back. They had the anniversary skates, they've also obviously had the Eugen Ennen various pro models, and part of me thinks that that's more a testament to Powerslide's just belief in the integrity and the history of the sport, rather than wanting to make loads of money off it, because there's just no way that this skate is hugely profitable for the brand. There's no way they're making as many of these as they are like the Aeons and the Sways, and hardly anyone in the team even rides these. In fact, Eugen's the only member of the pro team that skates these. But as I said, got a lot of nostalgia with this skate. I had the first Dustin Latimer Shadows, I had the JC Rose, and I also had the Shadow 2.0. So I just wanted to skate them again to see if some kind of nostalgia kicked in, or if there was muscle memory, and if I put my foot in it, if it just kind of felt familiar. So over the course of the past couple of weeks, I have been skating these at a bunch of street and park sessions, and here's how I got on. Putting these on for the first time, when I went for that first session, reminded me of one of the reasons why I stopped skating this skate. It is very annoying to put on. This whole concept that the Shadow skate is better than other skates because you can just easily slip it on and off and jump on a bus or jump on public transport or go into the office or go into a shop or whatever and then put them back on really quickly is an absolute myth. You have to put your foot in, then kick your heel down, then put on the ratchet strap, then kick your heel down again, then put on the toe strap, then put on the buckle. Also, you've got to tie up the liner, and it's just, there's quite a lot of stages to it, and just putting them on before the first session, I was like, yep, I've remembered one of the deal breakers for this. I've remembered why I stopped skating this. But the first roll around reminded me about one of the things I liked about this skate. I don't really like how it looks out the box and holding it in my hand, but weirdly, looking down with your jeans covering up the cuff area, I actually quite like how it looks. I've got really big feet, so skates tend to look really boatish and just a bit skinny and long on me looking down, and I don't often like that aesthetic from that perspective. With these, because they're nice and chunky and nice and wide and quite thick, I do think it's got quite a nice aesthetic when you're rolling around, and for me that is a huge part of a pair of skates. If I don't like how they look when I'm looking down at them, there's a good chance I'm not going to enjoy skating them. So from that point, I would say this skate got a bit of a win for me. As I've mentioned, this skate is unlike anything else on the market. It feels completely different to anything else on the market. And even though I've skated these before and it was a long time ago, I thought I would just kind of be able to jump back in and I'd remember it and it would feel familiar again. It definitely did not. It took me so long to break these in. The first session, I was just not skating well at all. I was really struggling with a lot of things. Particularly just crossing my legs. I would keep kicking the top of the buckle or keep getting like caught up and just kind of hitting the skates off each other just because I wasn't used to skating something so bulky, and with it being heavier, doing things like fakie 270s into grinds or fakie 180s into grinds just felt a little bit more laboured. And also with the sole plate being so thick, I was really looking forward to that as like a cheat for grinds, like doing topsides or royales or any kind of backslide base trick. But what I remembered is it also comes with the downsides, and that is when you're skating round and you take a sharp turn, it's really easy to catch the edge of the sole plate because it is so wide. And there was a couple of times where I came really close to wiping out, especially turning forwards to backwards. I would kind of get caught up a wee bit and just forget that these are so big and that you need to be aware of that and kind of make adjustments. Within 15 minutes, I was skating round and these sounded like when the tool chest rattles down the stairs in Home Alone 2.
What's that sound?
And that is because things started coming loose, things started becoming really rattly, metallic-y sounding. I thought it was the UFS bolts in the frame. I checked, it was the UFS bolts in the frame. It was the UFS bolts in both frames. So I took the skate off and checked everything. Everything was loose. The cuff bolts were loose to the point of almost falling out. The screws were loose. The UFS bolts, the only thing in this skate that didn't come loose in the first 15 minutes were the axles. They were all perfectly in place. Everything else was rattling round and it was driving me insane. And then I checked my other skate, and you may be noticing that the buckles are different colours and wondering why. That is because within the first 15 minutes of skating these, I managed to snap the original buckle clean off. Now, I know I break a lot of buckles, but it is not just me. Heath Burley and Caleb Benavides have both complained about this online. A lot of people have complained about this online. This Kaiser buckle cannot withstand any abuse. It is a great design, but I've got no idea why they made the base plate plastic instead of the same metal as the buckle, because as soon as you hit it, it just snaps clean off. I have broken 5 of these Kaiser buckles this year, and I can't decide whether they've just made so many of them that they just want to get rid of the stock and they're putting it on everything, or whether they genuinely think that this is a good product. But I'm really, really not a fan, and it pains me to say that because I really like the designer. He's a really good guy, but this Kaiser buckle needs to go. Another issue I had was I didn't feel like I was royaling on the backslide plate. I felt like I was royaling behind it, or like just off somehow. And my toe was slightly hanging over the front of the skate, which it just didn't feel as stable. Now, these are configured for a 9.5 UK, which is the size that I got. I'm a size 10 UK and found the fit to be quite generous. If you're a size 10 UK shoe, you can definitely get into the 9.5, but they had the cuff too far forward. So as a result, the toe was sticking off the front and the backslide plate was out of alignment with where I was grinding and just made for a bit of a horrible experience. All in all, the first session on these, I thought I'd made a horrible mistake and I really wasn't going to enjoy them. And then I remembered that with all the Shadow skates I've had, I've always had to configure them. This is one of the most adjustable skates you can get. You can move this forward and backwards in multiple positions. You can adjust where this strap goes forwards and backwards. You can adjust where this strap goes forwards and backwards and adjust this in all these different positions. After about 3 sessions, I finally got these dialed in to the point where they started feeling normal. Another issue I had was that my feet just kind of kept feeling like they were doing this, like they were bowing in the way, like what you get with Rems or Sebas after you've skated them too long and they've kind of lost their integrity. And I realised that if I changed the position of the ratchet buckle and moved it, I think it was like out the way a little bit, it stopped that happening as much. So that's one of the main takeaways that I want everyone to know if they're thinking of buying these skates. Out the box, these may work for you, but more often than not, because there are so many elements about it that you can change, you are going to have to mess about with it and find what works best for you. Now, I know a lot of people don't want to do that. They don't have the patience for it. I don't have the patience for it, but I did persevere and it did pay off and it did make the skate work a lot better for me, and it probably will for you too. Another thing I learned from that first session is you're going to want to get the blue Loctite and put it on everything. I put it on the UFS bolts and they didn't come out again. That was fine. Put it on all the screws. They didn't come out loose again. The cuff, on the other hand, I think because it is hinged and because there's kind of a lot of movement and torque going on, it took 2 separate applications of blue Loctite before they stuck in place. If you're using blue Loctite, it's not enough to just put it on. You have to put it on and then let the skate sit for at least 24 hours. No skating them or the blue Loctite won't work. But for them skates, you definitely need blue Loctite. And for the USD Shadow, you definitely need blue Loctite. Other adjustments I made is the toe strap. When you pull it, when it was in its original position and you pull it, it hung right over the edge, and I don't want, when I'm missing grinds or doing grinds, for it to fray. So what you can do is you can shorten it on the inside and you can shorten it pretty much as you want. The Velcro only goes so far, but you can stick it down with glue on the inside and that sorts that issue. I also cut a significant portion off the buckle strap because the buckle is not hidden anywhere on the inside, and as a result, when it came out to here, the buckles were basically sticking all the way out here and hitting off each other when I was doing grinds or turning or skating, and it was just infuriating. It also meant that I couldn't get them as tight, whereas I cut over a quarter, maybe almost a third off this and then put it on, and then it allows me to pull it really, really tight, get it really clamped onto my leg, but have very little sticking out on the inside. So yeah, if you're like me and stuff like that bothers you, you're gonna have to do minor surgery, get the old Dremel out and hack little bits of plastic off, but it's not that big a deal. As I mentioned, it took at least 3 sessions before these even began to feel remotely normal. And there were some other teething issues, like when you've got a normal skate and something starts rattling, you instantly assume it's either the UFS bolts or it's the axles. And more often than not, it is. With these, because there's so many different moving parts, it can be absolutely anything. One session, it just kept making that rattling noise every time I landed, and I was like, what the hell is that? I was losing my mind. I checked every bolt, everything was tight. I checked the axles, it was tight. I checked the screws, the buckles, clips, everything. Then I realised on one of the skates, I hadn't fully tightened this like as much as it could go. So this little bit here was just doing that every time I landed and making me go crazy. So another micro annoyance, but something to bear in mind. If you like skates that don't rattle, you're gonna have to be on your guard with this because there's many opportunities for it to happen. Another issue that happened with this skate, which only happened for the first few sessions and then I managed to find a fix for it, was I was skating these completely stock and they are very comfortable, but I was getting quite a lot of foot cramp right in the arch of my foot on the bridge. Now, that is not necessarily a problem of the skate or the skate's fault, and more just a personal issue with me. I have got flat feet, and as a result, I've got what people would call a collapsed arch. And right in here, I was getting cramped during like the first 20 minutes of the session. Now, that could be because this skate doesn't have great like foot support or arch support even, but I found that it was due to this footbed. Now, don't know if you can tell, but this MyFit footbed is the softest footbed on earth. It has like got very little support or integrity whatsoever. I took this out and I put in a stiffer footbed, which did offer arch support, and as a result that problem went away, but it probably won't affect that many people. But if you're like me and you've got a flat foot or a collapsed arch, it's something to consider because, yeah, in that area, it's not providing the most support. And that brings me to my negative views on the skate. Number one, it is very annoying to put on. You've got 3 different enclosures to tighten up. You've also got the walkable liner to tie up, and putting it on can just be a bit fidgety and annoying. And I would argue it's probably one of the most annoying skates on the aggressive market to put on your foot. If you've skated the Fifth Element or the Rollerblade Blank in the past, weight shouldn't be too much of an issue for you, but because I've been skating quite a lot of light skates this year, I did find it quite heavy and clunky and just not as responsive when I was wanting to do things like fakie 270s into grinds or do tight turns or carve or switch from forward to backwards. But that is something that you will get used to in time, and after a few sessions you don't even really notice the weight that much. And last but not least, because it's got so many moving parts, there's just so many areas for it to go wrong, or for you to lose a bolt or a screw, or for something to snap off. And that can be quite irritating. I can imagine it would put a lot of people off, because in this day and age, we kind of go for a more simpler aesthetic, a more simpler silhouette, and this is the polar opposite of that. But moving on to the positives, and there are a lot of positives. If you're someone that has got a massive foot, or you struggle to find skates that fit you, or you have loads of pressure points in skates and you regularly can't find something that's comfortable or doesn't cause you pain, this could be the solution to all your problems. I have never had any pressure points. I have never had any toe pinching, heel pinching, ankle pain, any of that kind of stuff. And that is because it's not like any other skates. And that is one of its benefits. It's not trapped in by a fully enclosed case of plastic. It's got all these breathable areas, and it is essentially like wearing trainers with a brace on it. So from that perspective, if you're a big-footed skater, a wide-footed skater, or you get quite sensitive feet and you regularly have pain or pressure issues, the USD Shadow could be the answer to that problem. The next positive, this skate probably has the best heel locking system in all of aggressive skating. You can ratchet this down until the blood stops running through your foot. I do not know of any other aggressive skate that you can get this so tight on. So if you like heel rolls or toe rolls, or you just want your foot to be so insanely locked into a skate that it cannot move at all, the USD Shadow's got it covered. This skate also has what I would argue is possibly the best heel protection in rollerblading, and that is because you're not just relying on a heel pad. You've got a walkable liner with an insanely thick rubber heel, then you've got this, which, although I do believe is too soft, also has heel support. And then inside the skeleton itself, you've got another heel pad. So you've basically got 3 forms of heel support all in the one skate. So if you're someone who likes chucking themselves off stuff, likes doing gaps, this is excellent heel protection. If you suffer from heel bruises or you're prone to them, you are not going to get heel bruises in these. And I know how annoying they are. They take longer to heal than broken bones in some instances. They take forever. You're not getting a heel bruise with these skates. Another positive is this skate is brilliant for beginners. First off, you've got a huge, generous sole plate. I would argue the sole plate is slightly too big. I don't believe it needs to be this big. But if you're a beginner and you struggle with soles or topsides or royales, if you can't learn them in this skate, you're not going to be able to learn them in any skate, because this makes royales so unbelievably easy. Like, you don't have to flex that much at all. On topsides, you can miss by quite a considerable amount and still lock onto the ledge. And the fact that it comes with a fluid 4 with the Kaiser grind wheels inspired by the Mind Game Higgs boson, you're not going to get wheel bite in these. You're not going to stick. The only thing I would say is, because this is so wide and this is so deep, it's very easy to come off the groove in the frame. And what I've noticed is I have got quite a significant groove starting to go in the backslide plate there, but yet no groove whatsoever in the frame, which tells me that I'm grinding a lot more on the backslide plate when I'm skating ledges than I am on the frame. So make of that what you will. I wanted to try the USD Shadow again because I have a lot of nostalgia for the skate, and I wanted to see if it still felt the same as it did when I last skated it. But so many elements of this skate have changed that it doesn't feel the same anymore, and that is neither a positive or a negative thing. There is still a loyal following for this skate. They're probably in the minority of aggressive rollerbladers, but it still does have a loyal following, and I can see why. There was a lot of love put into this skate by Shane Coburn, Dustin Latimer and Salomon when it was first created, and I think it's really great that Powerslide have brought it back and have kept it going even though it's not in its original form anymore, because it shows that they care about the heritage of rollerblading and the culture of it and its history, and there's no way they're making lots of money off this. I am willing to bet this is USD's least popular model, and the fact that they're still persevering with it and releasing it, I think is a great thing. And I do think it has good attributes. I do think there's lots of people that will be able to enjoy, skate and fit in this that can't fit comfortably in other skates or don't enjoy the feeling of other skates. And I do think it is great for both beginner skaters and advanced skaters alike, because it does have a lot of great features. I do feel though that rollerblading culture and the audience has kind of moved past it. Like, rollerblading is very much focused on a simpler silhouette now and just using something really basic and practical that does the job well. So for example, like a USD Aeon or USD Sway or Rose's Majestic 12 or a Them 909, or recently like the standard Omni or the T-Neck 58. This is very much gone out of fashion in rollerblading terms. In fact, I don't know that it ever was in fashion in rollerblading terms. It was very much a niche product within a niche market, but it would be an absolute shame to see it go, and I can understand why lots of people love this skate. So for that reason, I think Powerslide are doing a great job for keeping it going. Unfortunately, it's just not really the skate for me. As always, I want to give a giant shout out to my Patreon supporters. They are listed on the screen now. If you want to join the Wheel Scene Patreon, you can do so for as little as £3 a month. There's a bunch of videos, photos, ramblings on there that will never be on the YouTube channel, and you'll be helping to support me, so that would be greatly appreciated. Let me know what you think of the USD Shadow. Do you prefer this to the original Shadow? Do you not? What elements of the skate do you like? What do you dislike? Have you tried this, most importantly, the newest version from USD? And I'd just be keen to know your guys' thoughts. Until then, speak to you guys soon.
Bruh.